to another episode of Stuck in My Mind podcast. I am your host, Wize, and today's guest is proof that comeback is always louder than the setback. He's a military veteran, father, entrepreneur, host of two powerhouse podcasts. But before that, he survived addiction, bankruptcy, divorce, and the unthinkable loss of his 18-month daughter. He didn't just rebuild himself, he rebuilt the blueprint. And now he's here to help the overlooked, the underestimated, and the ones who've been through hell and are still standing. Turn their power into pain. Welcome back to the show. My brother, man. I'm so excited to have him back. Tracy Brinkmann.
How you doing, man? Long time no talk to you.
Yes. He was actually episode 100 of my audio podcast. And so, yeah, I'm excited to have you back.
I looked back trying to find it, and I couldn't find where it was at. But yeah, episode 100. It's been a while. I know we see each other on Facebook like all the time.
Yes. But to be honest, when we recorded, I was just strictly doing audio. I wasn't doing video. It wasn't until later on. So it's on my audio podcast, but
Gotcha.
I'm glad to have you now, man. Thanks.
Well, I'm glad to be back, man. There's so many things to talk about. And
listen, so you've lived through a lot of pain. Most people just can't imagine. So what was the lowest moment? What was the lowest moment what did the lowest moment teach you about identity?
You know, I think my lowest moments, I'm lucky enough to say they taught me to look back into the abyss of the moment to try and glean something positive out of it. And what I mean by that is I truly believe in my heart of hearts that God, Allah, Buddha, the universe, Mother Nature, whoever you believe in, puts lessons in front of you to teach you something. And if you don't learn the lesson, guess what, brother? You got to go through it all over again. And what usually happens is the first time they share the lesson with you, it's on level 1. And if you don't listen, it's on level 2. If you don't listen then, they just go ahead and jack it up to level 5. And you don't listen again. It keeps, elevating higher. It doesn't keep going one level at a time like a video game. It starts jumping ad infinitum until you either break or you finally go, oh, well, damn, that's what that meant. And if you can learn the lesson, right, through the muck and through the mire and through the pain, then you're able to move on and start moving forward. I see so many people and you've probably seen them too, right? Just getting stuck in yesterday. They're stuck in the rearview mirror in the car called life. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the windshield is like 105 times bigger than the rearview mirror, and it's like that for a reason. So, long-winded answer.
No, but that's what you're here for. But you're right. It's a lot of people are stuck in the past, and they keep looking in that rearview mirror because I guess some people they're just afraid of that big openness in front of them. But it's something like it's been. I know I've gone through some stuff, and I've been able to come out on the other side. But like you said, there was lessons to be learned in what I experienced, and when it was time for me to say enough is enough. All right, I get what you're trying to teach me.
Yeah.
That's when things started changing.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's definitely something that I've experienced with everything with everything I've been through in life. So yeah, definitely agree with that.
And getting stuck in the past can take on a couple of different forms. It could be. I see this a lot. I see, especially in the guys arena, I see guys that are stuck in their high school or their collegiate years when they were at their prime and maybe they were sports players and they got the winning touchdown or they got the last minute shot at the buzzer or whatever it is, and they're stuck in that moment of success, and so much so that they're almost visible. They're not seeing the amazing things and opportunities that are right in front of them if they would just reach out and grab it. because they're like, man, I was the shit back then, and now, eh, right? Not everyone's carrying them on their shoulders and a victory lap or anything. It's like, well, you got to do that stuff yourself first before anyone else even thinks of lifting you up. You got to lift yourself up. So there's that.
But no, don't. There's definitely, you always have that friend who's just lives in that. Oh, remember when we did? It's what,
Yep.
like, oh man, it's time to move on. Like, we're here, and you're
Yes.
still, and especially from people. I know a lot of guys my age that are just stuck in what they were doing in the past and not focusing on the future where I'm at. And it's like, I wouldn't say I've left behind. I've just surrounded myself with people that are doing what I'm doing and are
Yeah.
loving what I'm. So I've been able to grow and develop and learn in this space. This In the 5 years that I've been doing this, man, I've had some amazing conversations. This is our second conversation, and so I've, even from our first interview, the show has grown and transitioned to what it is now.
Hmm. Well, and that's life in general, isn't it? I mean, if you're being successful, and you can define success however you want, you're not who you were yesterday. And I mean yesterday in the ubiquitous 365 days and 5 years and whatever it is. And even sometimes the actual yesterday. You keep changing. And to the point you made about sometimes you have folks inside your sphere of influence who are an anchor while you're trying to sail away onto your path to success, or whatever your dream is. They're weighing you down, and it may be that you just don't cut them out, although there's probably a few people you need to cut out.
Yeah.
Those folks, right? Even if they're close family, there's always those folks. Yeah, I'm just going to cut this line right now because it's probably best. But certainly, there's the few that, while you don't cut the tie entirely, you start putting people closer to you that resonate with you more, and those folks that you're not cutting, they just kind of end up pushing themselves out of your inner circle because they don't get it. And I think so many people are confused by, well, wait a minute, I'm doing good things. Well, yeah, and those people over there that aren't vibing with you, they're jealous. They might not admit it, but somewhere inside their heart of hearts, that jealousy is rearing its head. And it's not because they don't want you to be successful, it's because you're reminding them of the things they're not accomplishing, that they know somewhere in the back of their head, oh, I could do that too. Well, get up and do it. And they're like, I don't want to. Well, okay, then shut up, or whatever it is.
Oh no, and that's how it wasn't that I was just, but I was the reason why I wasn't doing the things I would, like, the reason I didn't start the podcast in 2019 was because I was stuck in my own head making up excuses like,
Hmm.
oh yeah, I'm not a celebrity, nobody's gonna like me, all that stupidness, until I decided to finally just press record and just, you know what, screw it. The only way I'm gonna know if I'm gonna be any good at this is, let me record it.
Yep.
Okay, I mean, just release it, and eventually it went from a 5-minute intro to what it is now, man. And
Yeah.
it's evolved in the 5 years, but had I not taken that leap and put myself in an uncomfortable position
Hmm.
and challenged myself, then I would have never known.
You had to be willing to A, put yourself out there,
Mhm.
and B, put yourself out there while you still sucked at it.
Exactly.
I mean, I was in the podcasting game back in 2007. Completely different game back then, right?
Yeah.
And I was on a platform called Blog Talk Radio. And so I didn't even have to and I was using the microphone on my laptop. 2007, y'all, laptop microphone. You want to talk about audio hell? And then I don't know, probably it was about 2009, 2012, somewhere in that realm. I stepped off of that platform and actually started my first podcast. And I got what was it? It's the Blue Snowball.
Mhm.
And I thought, man, this thing is awesome. And it sounded really good too. And learned to do Audacity and put it out there. And people started clicking. I'm like, oh, this is cool. But I go back now, and you can probably echo this. So to some of my first episodes back then, and I've done it. I've gone back and listened to them, and I'm like cringing at what I sounded like and the faux pas, but nobody cared. And those that cared didn't listen. They said, "Okay, well, this guy's no good. I'm out." But there was enough of the folks that said, "Oh, Tracy, I like your shit," and they kept coming back around. So here we are.
Oh yeah, I remember. I rem- I remember my first. It was a Behringer podcasting studio
Yeah.
from Amazon,
Yeah.
and so it connected straight to my laptop, and I didn't have all the proper hookups for like for my phone or any of that. So when I did my first show, I had my nephew on, and he's my partner, and I had him on the phone, and he's talking through the phone into the mic, and that was my first. That was the first recording. But it goes to, and then when I found that I loved podcasting so much, it was okay. Let me learn the difference between a condenser mic and a dynamic.
Mhm. Exactly.
What works for me? What sound do I want to go with? And so when I learned that, okay, I want a dynamic mic because I know my surroundings, I know my area.
Mhm.
I rather have instead of having the condenser where it's going to pick up everything around me, and especially being in the room that I'm in. So all these things I just started teaching myself and learning,
Yeah.
but it took me just again challenging myself, putting myself out there to be like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I need to improve. Let me start doing some research.
Right.
Let me start learning. Let me start investing in the proper equipment. Let me learn about what camera do I want to use at home. What all these different things, and it's led me to where I'm at now, where I'm comfortable with what I'm putting out there because I know I've invested in myself, and I've invested in some of the yes, it's pretty good. I've spent a pretty penny on the equipment I have. I'm not gonna
Well,
lie.
yeah. Yeah, but you did it over time. I mean, you
Yeah.
started off at level 1 or 2, and
Mhm.
as you thought, "Okay, this is cool." I think one of the biggest challenges and oh my gosh, and you being a podcaster, you probably see this too. In Facebook groups or on Reddit forums or whatever, people are you see it almost every single day, "What's the best mic?" I've even gotten to the point now where I'll reply to that by saying, "The mic you'll use."
Mhm.
There it is.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I mean, here's a good one. When I first started the Dark Horse Entrepreneur 2020, I hopped on with one of the guys that I've become friends with, and he had started his podcast about a year after I did, and he was doing good. All right, can you come on the show, Tracy? Sure, no problem. I'll hop on the mic, and we riffed for a bit. And he had, I think it was probably a Logitech headset and the microphone,
Yeah.
which has a very tinny, for anyone listening, you're talking into a tin can. It has a very unique sound to it. We've all heard it. And, after the podcast came out and I re-listened to it, and I'm like, okay, you could hear the difference. And he was fine. He was comfortable. I hopped on the phone with him. I said, you might want to replace that, or at least do something with the audio to pull that tinniness out. Because when you're on a podcast where someone like you who has, some equipment that you've dialed into your voice and it gets that deep, rich resonance. And then on the other side, you have someone who doesn't have that and maybe has, level 2, level 3 quality and that tinniness. It really screams at your audience as it goes back and forth. And an audio engineer can work so much magic. So, but at the same time, he didn't care. He was like, I'm just doing it. And when I'm ready to do that next level, to invest that next level, then I'll do it. I'm like, cool. You keep going, brother, because it worked for him for a number of years.
Yeah. And sometimes, of course, I'm not lucky to always have a guest like yourself where you have the proper equipment. So
Sure.
sometimes they'll have their headsets on and speaking through their mic on the headsets on, and they're probably in a cafe or something, and I'm like, okay, and sometimes you pick up the background noise, and I, you like, okay, sometimes you at the end, maybe I'll be like, listen, then maybe for future interviews, you might want to consider either be in a quiet area or
Right.
yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's, it's,
Totally.
it's something where you just experience and because you if you're not especially if they're not podcasters, I don't expect them to have grade A equipment. They're just coming on to do interviews.
Sure.
So
100%. But
yeah,
at the same time, they're probably using your platform and other platforms like yours as a tool to get their voice out there.
mhm,
So they've got to learn that too.
yeah,
It's like, okay, I'm going to ride the bus. I need to know the bus schedule. I need to have my bus pass, all those
yeah.
kinds. Anyway, sorry, we got off on a
No, no, no.
podcast tangent.
So we're gonna go back. We're gonna start talking about you a little, Tracy. So, how did becoming a father through grief reshape your sense of purpose?
Oh man, let me tell you, the 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 death of my daughter probably would have been a whole lot worse if I hadn't kicked addiction's butt first. My life's a roller coaster, and that's how I like to describe it because I love roller coasters. There's the scary parts, the fun parts, the parts where it feels like it's tearing your tonsils out of your face. But the roller coaster of my life has had three major dips in it, and the first was overcoming addiction. And I mean, when I say overcoming, it was kind of forced upon me. The 5-0 kicks open the door and the whole 9 yards. I mean, I got to the point where I was supporting my habit by having other people sell for me. Okay. Not good. And I'm not saying that with any level of pride. I use my entrepreneurship skills in the wrong way. But when that happened, I had a 3-month-old daughter. And as I was coming back from the police station after I was being interviewed, and I had my dad's voice in my head. And it was like family first, family first. My dad was a 23-year military veteran, and that he was that 6'3" bear of a man that everybody loved, big teddy bear, but don't mess with his family. And so I had that in my head. And so when I got back home, I called my folks up and I says, I need some help. And they're like, sure, what do you need? And I'm like, well, not a conversation I want to have over the phone right now. So I went to their house and literally moved back into my childhood home. I moved into the garage. My daughter moved into my old bedroom while I got my life together and got cleaned up. And I could have stepped back out into the entrepreneurial world because I had just owned a computer programming business and started down that dark path and let that fall by the wayside. But I needed to build my self confidence back up, my self confidence inside. So I started doing like day jobs and working on the docks and working in warehouses and doing accounting work for about a year and a half or so while I just okay, I'm ready to do this. And I stepped out into the corporate world and I was lucky enough to land a job at Coca Cola, which took me from Southern California to Atlanta. And that's when my second daughter was born during that transition. And so, this is, my youngest is probably about 2 or 3 at this point. And when Chris is born, she's born a month early. So there's that whole adventure there. And she was born a month early because my former wife, started having real serious pains and calls 911. They rush her to the ER and they lose the baby's heartbeat. And so they do an emergency cesarean to pull the baby out. And she's got the term is a distended abdomen. For those that don't know what that is, you picture a man with the classic beer belly. Now
Mhm.
picture that on a newborn baby. Okay. And what had effectively happened in during her development, one of the main arteries feeding her intestinal tract didn't develop. And so all of her poop was backing up into her tummy. And so Krista went through about 6 major operations in her first 3 months of life just to get her to the point where she could sustain life on her own. And that resulted in her needing a liver and small bowel transplant. She gets on the organ donor. That starts my speaking career because I'm talking to anybody that will listen about the benefits of being an organ donor and telling Krista's story and the whole 9 yards. And, she ends up having to go from Atlanta up to Pittsburgh, mom and the baby, because that's where the best doctors for this particular operation is. So she's at the ready. And she's up there and she's doing great. She's doing amazing things. She's just, developing like a normal kid. She's a little jaundiced. And for folks that don't know her, they just think she's tan. And she's a blue-eyed tan baby. She looked like the Gerber baby. But then, towards the end there, I was flying up every other weekend or so to visit, and I could always make her laugh, and she would smile over everything, even with all the things she was going through and obvious discomfort she had to be feeling. She was a very happy baby. I walked into her room, and she was intubated. She had taken a decline, and I couldn't get her to smile. I couldn't really even get her to react to anything. She just kind of was very lethargic. And so I pulled the doctor aside and asked the question, if the organs were available right now, do you think she would survive the operation? I got a lot of hemming and hawing, the doctor speak, the non-committal kind of answers. Grabbed the white jacket, pulled it across the hall into a janitor's closet. No joke. Closed the door. I said, look, just you and me. No administrators, no one else around here. And re-asked the question. No, I don't think she would. Oof. Not the answer I wanted, but at least now I know what's going on. So the next question is, do you think her health would improve to the point where she would? A little bit of him and hawing, but again, the answer come out, no, I don't think she's going to get any better. So the question becomes, do I leave her on the machines that are at this point keeping her alive, or do I let her go? And because I survived the addiction, which I call my selfish time, right? Party, 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 do whatever I want, whenever I want, all that kind of noise. That was my extreme selfish time. It made me make a different decision that I probably would have made had I not experienced that. Because as I weighed those pros and cons, you're like, do I keep her here for me? Because that's the only reason it would have been. It would have been me not wanting to go through the pain of the loss, right? Just keeping her around for my, I won't say enjoyment, but for my love and caring.
Yeah.
So we opted to disconnect. We wrapped her up in the blanket that Grandma had crocheted for her, and I sat her down in the rocking chair and I rocked her to sleep one last time. And that was a blessing and a curse. The curse is kind of obvious, right? It's not something you'd wish on your worst enemy. At least I hope not.
No.
I know I wouldn't. But the blessing comes with the fact that I got to tell her all the amazing things that I had learned from her and commit to her to be the guy that she would be proud of as she was looking down on me from on high. And the next day after, that sad evening, that's what I did. That's what I started to do. Now, mind you, at the same time, being the classic cliche army type of guy, I was holding a lot of things down. There was a lot of stuff that had to get done. As anyone who's experienced a loss to someone close, there's a lot of stuff you got to do, right? You got to take care of a lot of crap. So I was, hustling around taking care of stuff and holding all this stuff down. And at that point, I could have, like I said, fallen back into bad habits and become selfish, but I still had my oldest daughter, and I made a promise. So I threw myself into personal development. Had I not experienced Act 1, right, of the drugs, I think my decisions would have been completely different but because I had taken the time to look back and learn lessons from that previous dip in my roller coaster, I started making wiser decisions that, moved my life forward. Still, like I said, I was still hiding the emotions. And I say that because about, I don't know, 4 or 5, it may have been 6 months later, I was watching this movie and I can't remember the name of it, but the premise of the movie is a father is holding an hospital
John
ER
Q.
hostage. What was that?
John Q.
John Q. Yes, right. So you've seen the movie. So
Yes.
he's holding these folks hostage, and you don't find out about halfway in, or maybe a little later than halfway in, that his ultimate goal is to commit suicide. And one of the doctors that are there being held hostage is an organ transplant doctor, and his son needs organs. So he's going to commit suicide, have the doctor take his organs out and give them to his son to save his life. When that realization of that pivotal moment hit me, I started crying like a baby. All those pent up emotions just came rushing out all at the same time. So I learned another lesson that no matter how hard you hold those things down, they're gonna come out eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. No, I definitely understand that. Because with me, it was 2008. My wife in a single car accident passes away at 35 years old, and so it was crazy because again, so young, and I had been with her for 10 years. Like I'm 31. My first 10 years of adulthood basically are spent with
Yeah,
her. So
yeah.
yeah, and so and it was something because yes, I had my dark after that. I went down my dark path, man. Because it was just like one thing after another, and I dealt with it the way I dealt with it,
Mhm.
and so it wasn't until again I, later on after numerous losses and me being tired of being angry with God and life and just saying, you know what, this is here, and then hearing that voice tell me like this isn't your path. And the thing was that prior to her passing, she had introduced me into the world of self development,
Mm.
introduced me to The Secret and all these different other books, and that was her way to prepare me. Eventually, it was her way to prepare me for what was to come.
Yeah,
'Cause then eventually, I got back into self development, and I'm where I'm at now.
yeah. It when you find the right guide in that personal development, what do we call it, self-help woo-woo world, it's an amazing path. I know right after Krista passed away, we were living down in Atlanta, and this is about the time that Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn and all those people were doing those big stadium tours around the country. Heck, I think some of them went around the world. I went to every single one of them. I don't think I ever missed one. I may have missed one or two, but I went to all of them. And whenever I was able to, I would do the VIP passes, to do the lunch meet and greets, have an opportunity to, talk to a Tony or to Jim or to Zig. Was my man Zig, man. I don't know.
I love
I just
listening to Zig. I went. It's one of my favorite.
he's
Yeah.
he was magic. But listening to all that is one thing because you hear all the stats, right? Hey, you go to a 3-day motivational seminar and your dopamine goes through the roof and you're all charged up. And then what? Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you start taking action, guess what? You keep getting those dopamine hits and you keep seeing the positive results. And sometimes they're small, but then those little small ones stack on
On
top
top
of each
of
other.
it.
It's like an onion, right? It's like each layer of the onion, it's really thin, but there's so many of those layers put together, all of a sudden you got some soup creating onion.
No, absolutely. Yeah. it's with anything. You have to keep building up
Yeah.
because for me, when I started, I couldn't get a guest on the show for anything, and then eventually I started getting a guest on, and then eventually when I kind of shifted and changed how I was doing the show, now I constantly receive 2-3 emails daily.
Yeah. I feel you. I know what you're talking
so,
about.
so it was like it went from all right. Yeah, come back to me when you're doing them. One of the things was they were like, come back to me when you're doing numbers. I'm like, but
Yeah.
I'm just starting out. Wow, yeah, when you I'm like, okay, and I've built it up, and I'm proud of what I've gotten accomplished. 'Cause I didn't know anything about this space when I entered it.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have a clue, and in 5 years I've learned so much. I've learned how to edit audio, video, how to I didn't know any of this. This wasn't my lane. I didn't know any of this. This was all new
Right?
experience. And so, but and recently I started learning coding because
Nice.
I did my website and it's just me wanting to learn and improve and
Mhm.
I've learned how to self-publish books. I just recently helped this young lady publish her first children's book, and these things are like I didn't think I would have. If you would have told me 5 years ago that this is where I would be at, that these are the things that I would be doing, I would have been like, get out of here.
You get out of here. You're crazy. Yeah. Well,
And
I think one of the cool things your story made me think of is when you go on a journey and you're willing, like you explained, to put yourself out there, ugly and bad equipment and the whole 9 yards, and just keep going. Is that, oh man, I think when you find that path that resonates within you, that's when the people start getting pulled in. So when you first started, you were probably, and this is my assumption, probably a little shaky
mm,
internally. You're like, oh, I don't know, maybe. So people are like, well, maybe I'll come, maybe I'm check back with you when you get the numbers. But as you started, getting into finding your groove and doing things, and the numbers started coming as a result of that, the people started coming,
yeah,
and I think it's like that in anything. I know because when I started the Dark Horse, I started, and so many people make this error, and I made it too. So it's even the guys that have been doing this for a long time. Like I said, 2007, I started with the entrepreneur. I'm going to talk to entrepreneurs. How many shows could there be like that out there? A lot of them, actually, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know.
mhm,
And so about a year in, I narrowed it down to just online entrepreneurs. Still a really big pool. It's not really a niche, but it is. It was uncomfortable to me to go narrower. And as I started going through the folks I was reaching out to that were coming back and reaching back to me and having conversations, it was starting to click with me that the majority of them were parents.
mm,
And inside of that, almost all of them, maybe just a small percent of exceptions, were parents that were looking to do a cubicle escape. They were trying to get out of their corporate world and do something on their own. They call it a side hustle. Really, at that point, it's a main hustle.
yeah,
So year three or four, narrowed down to helping parent entrepreneurs. Okay, now we've really narrowed in. And then about 9 months ago, I added in AI because I dove into the AI genre about a year after it became mainstream. I waited for the buzz to die. I didn't
mhm,
want to be riding one of those waves. But really, at that, I was spending my time learning, like you're saying, right? I'm learning. You learn to do this, you learn to do that. So I was learning the tools that were out there and how I could use them so that I can turn around and teach others how to use them. So I wasn't just hopping on the microphone and saying, "Well, here's how you do it," and I hadn't done it yet. You know what I'm saying? So now we're talking to parent entrepreneurs who are looking to start a side hustle, and we're going to compress the timeline with AI, which is very tight, very narrow. Now, mind you, if you're not a parent, you're still going to get value from the show. And I have lots of folks I know that listen to the show that are not parents, because in focusing on my parents, and here's where the magic starts to come in, because I was focusing on my busy parents who are already going, doing school runs and pickups and, soccer practices or cheer practices on top of their job and having to do shopping and balancing the budget and all this noise. They don't have the kind of time these standard entrepreneur, he says with air quotes, entrepreneur has, where they could sit down on a Saturday and spend 6 hours, learning something and testing and creating. And they have like 20 minutes, buckets of time, maybe 45. So I started creating tactics and tools that where they could get a lot done in that really narrow time frame. And if they're able to go longer, all the better. Okay. So because of how I just let it evolve and I just leaned into it and I listened to the audience, whole new something I never even imagined on day one of hopping on episode one with God, I forget who it was and now, but hopping on episode one, who would have known by episode 500 it would have been what it ended up being? I couldn't imagine, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I would have never thought I don't even know how many I've recorded. Because even from when it wasn't until because your episode was 100, right? And it wasn't up to episode 132 of my audio podcast that I finally decided to do video along with audio,
Hmm.
because I had a couple that were marketing specialists, and the husband kept asking me his main question was like, "So you do video, right?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just waiting. I'm not ready yet." And then
Right.
he goes, "Okay, so you do video, right?" I'm like, "No, no, not yet. Just wait." And the third time he goes, "So you do video?" I go, "Yes, I do. I do video." Because I was using StreamYard, but I was just using it to record the audio onto my Rodecaster.
Okay.
And I wasn't doing the video. And he made me realize that, oh man, you're wasting time because you're not using valuable content right now.
Yeah.
You're doing the interview already. Why not use the video?
Yeah.
Why not record video? And so it was his sort of way of like telling me like, yo, you need to do and yeah, since then I've been doing the video.
Right. The lesson kept coming in front of you, and when you were ready to hear it.
Yeah. It was good that it was the third time he had to ask me like, yeah, we can do video. Yeah, I'll do it now. Yeah,
I do it
absolutely.
now, yeah.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
It's awesome that things like that have gotten. I'm going to use the phrase "so easy." It's still not, one button push, click, and it's magic. It just work, right? You can't just put it out there like that, but it's certainly a lot easier than it used to be, even what, 3 years ago when we first started our podcast. I bet you video was 4 times harder than it is right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We didn't have platforms like StreamYard or what I'm using here, EV
Yeah.
Mux, or it was like the beginning stages of Zoom. Like uh, I think I might have done the interview on Skype or something. It was just so many
Yes.
different. It was so many different ways. It was
Yeah.
and in just a short time, things have evolved where I have a whole production studio at the palm, just right here. Like, and
Yeah.
my desktop, I have a whole production studio, and I go live streaming, and so it's definitely evolved in just the short time since I've started my podcast. So yeah,
Yeah. So, I mean, I think for anyone considering starting a show of their own, podcast, vlog, whatever you want to, man, just do it. Grab this little tool right here if that's all you got, and
Right.
get going, and start it off yourself. And I think one of the big blocks that some of the folks out there, I know this has ended up being all very podcast centric, but that's fine. We're both podcasters, right? Is I hear, and I've heard this question like 4 times in conversations I've had in the past 2 weeks, is, well, I don't know where I'm going to get interviews. Okay, then don't do interviews. It's not a requirement for your podcast to be successful to have interviews. My first podcast, the Your Success DNA podcast, well, it's actually my second, but anyway, it is still going. 5 years. I started that one in 2012. It's still going 13 years later. Yeah, I'm doing my math right. And I've never once had an interview on that show. And it's intentional. I picked that intentionally from day one. This was going to be all about me, just spitting personal development stuff that I've learned and that I'm testing and that I'm trying and etc. It's never once had an interview, and it's doing okay. I think it's doing okay. Now, mind you, the Dark Horse has had, I don't know, almost 200 people on it. I'd say like 180 and change, if I remember correctly. But but then sometimes the past 4 or 5 months, because I've narrowed down, like I mentioned earlier, I haven't had an interview episode because I'm so tight that I'm picking them very selectively because they need to fit in. I'm not going to bring in some Wall Street guy that, created these amazing things, not taking anything away from them.
Yeah.
But my audience doesn't give a darn about that. They care about this. And that's the reason they come to the show. And I'd be doing them a disservice to bring someone on that's not going to give them value, even though their message could be valuable. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No. Definitely. And that was something that sometimes you gotta learn how to say no. And sometimes
Yes.
not interview, and I've learned that over the years. Like, yeah, not every interviews, but you're not gonna always get. I've been blessed where I've had way more great interviews than bad ones. You're always gonna have.
Yeah.
It's life. This everything's not perfect. You're gonna have
Yeah.
some bad interviews. It just happens, and
Yeah.
you just brush it off. You just go into the and I know my first episodes. I know they were not that great, so I've accepted that fact. And,
Right.
and just, you know what, I'm gonna just keep growing and developing, and so yeah, no, it's been
It's been a ride.
definitely, yeah, oh yeah, it's been an amazing ride, and I'm glad that my mom got to see me begin
Mhm.
and start the journey, and so I'm kind of that was something that I was very proud of, that she got to see me start something and start growing and do something that I'm proud of and that I know she could be very proud of. So
Nice. Yeah, it's funny you say that. My oldest daughter, the one that got me out of addiction, I have told her since she was old enough to understand it, you saved my life. Just understand that, okay? Honestly, you saved my life. She's in her 30s now, and when I started the last podcast and started going through it and sharing the journey, she listened to a few of the episodes. I don't, how many I don't know, but I know she made some comments. It inspired her to go back. I'm gonna say go back to school and to get a business degree because she wants to start her own bakery.
mm,
And she was telling me that, and I'm like, "How did you?" My thought instantly was, "What episode did you get that message from?" But it wasn't an episode. It was the fact that I had started something just because I wanted to, and
mhm,
and wanted to. I had a dream for where it was going to go. The dream has changed, and she knew that because we talk, and
yeah,
she was like, "I have a dream. I wanna bake." And I'm like, "Well, bake, do your thing, girl."
yeah,
And so she's like, "Okay, I'm gonna go back and get a business degree, and that way when I, go into business, I know all the nuts and bolts." Baking is for her, baking is the easy
the
part.
fun part, yeah,
Balancing the profit and loss and all that noise. She goes, "That I have no idea." And so I was like, "You go, girl." you don't know who you're impacting by being your best self, whether you're doing it on a podcast or just in your life, because they're watching. And if you have children, I guarantee you they're watching your actions tenfold more than they're listening to your words.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
No. Yeah. No. Definitely. Uh, because my my grandson has been a part of the show quite a few times.
Nice.
He's made his presence felt, and so but for him to see me and get to be coming, and when I'm not here, he'll sneak in the room and be on the mic and act like he's just talking.
Nice.
So for me to be able to show him like, hey, look what Pop Pop is doing. If you can do whatever you want, if Pop Pop can do this at 40 something years old, starting this, not knowing what his purpose was, and then discovering that, hey, you have a voice, you have this,
Mm-hmm.
and building something, and he can see it and touch it and be a part of it. Like I love that. That motivates me and that drives me.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, you're opening doors for them inside and for him inside his head that I don't think he even realizes yet. But there's going to be a point in time where he's going to go, yeah, but Pop Pop did it. So he's going to step out as a result of that.
Hmm. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So your daughters are a major part of your why. How does fatherhood inform your leadership? Like, how does it build up your leadership? Being
You know, it, uh, it has been a thick thread of fabric throughout my life. Coming out of, obviously, coming out of the addiction and the death, when my third daughter was born, I told my former wife, just so you know, I'm going to be telling my kids my stories because I didn't want to be that dad that says, don't smoke, don't drink because it's bad for you. I'm going to tell you, don't smoke, don't drink, don't do drugs because, and then share with them an age appropriate story from my personal experience or for someone I knew and watched it happen. And in being willing to open up like that has made it a whole lot easier for me to try to guide my kids because that's all you really can do, right? Is
yeah,
share the lessons, share the wisdom, share the guidance, and pray to whoever you pray to that they listen. And I know my oldest didn't listen for about 5 or 6 years. Click, just turned off. But you know what? I did the same thing to my parents
yeah,
about the same
yeah,
time.
yeah.
So as soon as I saw her turning off, I was like, "Ugh, Mom, I'm sorry." You know, my youngest was completely different, and it was completely different, I think, because there was 5 years between them. So as Tylea, the oldest, was going through her teen troubles, tween troubles, going into teen troubles, Shandy, being 5 years her junior, could see it and could understand what was going on and saw how it impacted mom and dad and decided, I don't like that. I don't want to do that. So she didn't. I won't say she was the perfect kid, but man, she it was night and day, right? And no one says you have a favorite. I don't. Someone might say your youngest is your favorite. I'd say no. I'm sorry, my oldest is actually my favorite. I love my other one, but anyway. But so the lessons that I taught Shandy were a lot different than the lessons I taught Tylea. Tylea's were about, okay, I know where you're headed because I went there. And if you're going down this path, here you need to know this about people and about those kinds of people, okay? I hope you never have to remember any of these lessons, but where Shandy, she followed the traditional path all the way through high school, cheerleader, all 9 yards. So I taught her completely different lessons, which is a whole nother leadership skill to have. You don't teach everyone, you don't lead everyone exactly the same. If you do, you're going to be leaving some people behind because not everyone learns the same and not everyone is the same. I'm not going to teach my man Wize here the same way I'm going to teach myself because we're different people, right?
Learn different.
Forget the fact that, yeah, I'm a little further along and a little longer in the tooth, you know, but still we're different people, right? So
Absolutely.
I'm gonna need to teach you a little different than I teach myself. So those are a couple of things I learned just going through those two, let alone the loss. The loss just made me thankful,
Yeah.
at a whole nother level for the daughter I still had, and then the one that came after that. I'm like, oh, I love you guys to death. You start to realize that's how fast it can end, just like that. And sometimes you have to make that decision to end it, and sometimes someone else makes that decision for you. I know when my dad passed away, I was like, where did that come from? I mean, yeah, we understood he was getting on in years, but dude was still, in his late 50s. I'm older than that now. Hello. And then mom, I expected, sadly, I expected mom to pass on within a year or two. She hung out for another 8 years or so. And I was like, wow. So you pay attention, all these little things that go on in your life and all the lessons that go with that. It's like, don't set those expectations too high or too low because what you expect, man, that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, this show did not go anywhere how I expect. This has been great, man. No, it really hasn't, and we didn't really get to get into. But oh man, this has been amazing, man. Being able to just talk to you and so it's like you never know, like regardless of how much you structure a show, whatever, it's gonna go the way it's gonna go, and
Right?
it's been amazing just talking to you again, brother, man. Appreciate the time, man. But we've come to the part of the show where now you get to plug away and let everybody know where they can find you, everything.
Hey, yeah. If you vibe with the bearded old guy here, have an interest on learning side hustles with AI, come check me out over at the Dark Horse Entrepreneur. The podcast is on all the platforms, but you can go to darkhhorseentrepreneur.com. Or if you're traveling down a personal development path, you could check out Your Success DNA at yoursuccessdna.com. Either one of those shows, if you got an interest, come check us out.
Oh man, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you stopping by. This has been great. I'm glad we got to reconnect again, and like you said,
Absolutely.
we're always seeing. I'm always seeing your stuff on Facebook. So yeah, it's been good to be able to stay connected. So I appreciate your time, but don't leave just yet. Let me close out the show. We'll chat a little bit off the air because I definitely
You.
love to chat with you a little bit more.
All
But
right, man.
thank you, man. I appreciate your time, brother. It's been
Thank you for
wonderful
having
to
me.
meet
It's
you.
been my joy.
Oh, the pleasure's mine, brother. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. Another great episode is in the books. If Tracy's message hit you, don't just sit with it, move with it. Go follow the Dark Horse Entrepreneur and your Success DNA. And if you're a business owner with leads sitting cold in your email list, reach out to Tracy and get your revenue breathing again. And if you know someone who's been through the fire, share this episode because their story isn't over. It's just refining them. Stay strong, stay rising, and stay wise. You know how boy Wise does it? Peace out.